welcome to Decaf with Taylor and Mark in the Beacon Center of Tennessee. Mark, how's it going
Good.
today?
I'm excited. I got some sleep last night for the first time all week after our retreat, so I'm pretty excited.
I know I came home and answered some emails and then found myself absolutely passed out. I don't remember falling asleep. And then all of a sudden I just was asleep. And so, yeah, it was a fun retreat. We had a bit of a bear situation.
Not a bit, like a very big bear situation. We could not get in our car because there were bears outside blocking us for 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. They were really after our food. We had cooked the night before in the house. Well, we had grilled out, cooked in the house, and then all night there were just like bears all climbing all over the house. I guess they smelled the mac and cheese that I made, which honestly, that's just called working smart, not working hard. Like they just wanted some mac and cheese.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't the mac and cheese since that was cooked inside. I think it was probably the burgers that were cooked outside. But whatever helps you sleep at night. The mac and cheese was good.
Yeah, can you just give me this?
You've done a good job with picking out food. I was this retreat, there was some good stuff, good burgers. You got the brioche buns, which is, as we all know, super classy. The provolone cheese was just inspired. You did a great job with the food this time.
And I made a really good dinner reservation. I found us a good restaurant and made a reservation at a great place. So, I should just be in charge of all things social.
Well, no, because I don't agree with that. Because at the end, when we all want to go out and hang out and drink, you're like, oh, I want to go back to sleep. So I don't want to hear anything about social. Me and Jason Edmonds really held down the fort for the cool Team Beacon.
Okay, to be fair, I wanted to hang out with more than just you and Jason.
Justin and Stephanie wanted to go, and everyone's like, "Oh, Tara's like, oh, I need to go to sleep. Oh, it's so late. It's like 6:30 at night."
And who stayed up to come pick you up?
Not you. You didn't try. You did not try. It was Jordan did. You can't take credit.
I didn't have a car. But I rode with Jordan for moral support. Okay, I was there to party, but I was there to party in my pajamas.
Take credit for picking us up when you're not the one who drove. That's ridiculous.
This is turning into a roast of me, and I don't like it. So let's roast someone else instead. My vote is that we roast the Metro Nashville Transportation Licensing Commission. And I know that sounds like your average bureaucratic organization name that nobody actually wants to know what it means. And I agree with that. There's been, over the last, what would you say, Mark, year and a half, there's been a lot of talk from Metro Nashville about banning and or regulating transportainment vehicles. We're talking about the party buses, even like tour guide buses, like the big yellow, orange, and green bus that picks up at Marathon, and the trolley. I'm pretty sure that's included in this, sightseeing vehicles. They were going to ban them forever and ever and ever. The state was going to jump in and preempt that with a state law saying you couldn't do it. Nashville said they wouldn't do it, so the state didn't preempt them. And what do you know? They went and did it. What were the numbers? There were some really interesting numbers on this. One of them being that there were 150, how many of them? 159 permits that were requested, and only 80 something were approved. This is insane. You're having these transportainment vehicles that are employing people and providing a service that clearly people in Nashville want, and a bureaucratic government organization is just slicing them and dicing them and costing them thousands, millions, potentially of dollars in licensing fees for these trucks. And I think my least favorite word in the human language is licensing. And so it definitely made me furious to see this. Mark, you got your thoughts?
I mean, there's two things to talk about. First of all, it doesn't really matter what you think of these vehicles. I know a lot of people in Nashville don't like them. They think, they slow down traffic and stuff. That's fine. I mean, I don't particularly like them myself personally. But there's 2 points to this. One, should the government be regulating this? Because, this is bringing in tax dollars. This is bringing in tourism. This is a really good thing for Nashville. And, of course, we get annoyed with it sometimes, when you have drunk people yelling at it. I understand that. But just because we don't like something doesn't mean we need to get rid of it or regulate it out of existence, basically. And we find that all the time. It goes against so many principles that people have. But they're like, I just don't like that. It's like, well, it doesn't matter if you don't take it then. Don't try to take it down Nashville. Take an Uber. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. The second part, which I think is the most important part, is this is a a horrific thing that the government is doing to business owners because they started this business under these laws. They started this business saying, I'm investing, millions of dollars of my money, some of these transportation things, because this is a good business proposition and we can make money in Nashville. And then once you change the rules in the mid-game, so hypothetically, somebody could have invested, $4 million in transportainment vehicles 2 years ago before there's any cent of that. And then 2 years later, you're saying, oh, well, first of all, you have to reapply for a license. And even if you get it, what is it, $5,000 per vehicle?
Okay, yeah, get this. So the biggest company that does these things, Honky Tonk Party Express, they requested 35 permits and they were only given 17. It is $5,000 per vehicle for these licenses, and their fleet has just been cut in half. That effectively cuts their income in half. People are losing jobs. It is actually insane.
Well, it cuts their income way more than half because they have 18 vehicles they can't do anything with right now they have to pay for. And now, on top of that, they're paying $5,000 per thing they didn't have to pay for before. I mean, this is just this is the most anti-business thing one of the most anti-business things I've ever seen. And it is embarrassing. It's embarrassing for us as a city. And honestly, this needs to be rethought because this is not okay. And when business owners invest in something saying, yes, these are the rules, you can't change the rules mid-game after they've already invested. People are not going to want to come here. And it's just, again, whether it's the city council or any of the Metro and Nashville governments, they can't get out of their own way. They don't understand it. They have no economic sense, and they are just getting lucky that country music's a big deal and people want to move here because of the rules the state put in, because it's low taxes. They have done nothing except try to get people to come out. Oh yeah, you're right. Give the title. It's an embarrassment to our city. It's an embarrassment to our state, and it's not a right-left thing. It's not it's just common sense versus not common sense. And everybody that I can think of that's employed by the Metro Nashville government, I don't see why they have a job. I honestly, I'm not for anarchy, but if we got rid of the Nashville government, I think we would be way better off.
I know. I like what you said about if you don't like these vehicles, don't get on them. That's just don't go downtown at night. Don't get on the vehicles. Whatever. If you don't like it, don't have any part of it. That doesn't mean you have to ban them and cause people to be out of money, out of fun. I don't want to do any of these things at all. But if my little sister wanted to do one of those vehicles, better believe I'd book her one. I'd send her by herself, but I'd book one for her. Making the opportunity not available to the rest of the people just because you think it's noisy or you think it's loud or tacky. There are a lot of things that I think are tacky, and if you put me in charge, I still wouldn't ban them. But I got a lot of opinions. This is just simple. This is very simple. Government needs to get out of the way and let these people do their jobs.
Like you saw your sister, your younger sister, my 60-year-old mother and her friends went on the party bus, and they loved it. So it's not it appeals to a lot of people. And yeah, I mean, I don't I'm just not a big fan of, Brussels sprouts or collard greens. It doesn't mean I think they should ban it from restaurants. This whole idea of banning things that we don't personally like is insane. And it's got to end. And it is a bipartisan thing where Republicans and Democrats both just say, I don't like this. What about banning Juuls? The Juul, smoke, knock it off. Stop. Let people live their lives. Let people go on party buses and drink and have fun and spend money here. That's it.
Let's keep talking about that. Let's keep talking about government agencies trying to put in place regulations that have no business being there. The Supreme Court just ruled this week that the EPA had no authority to regulate a certain part of the Clean Air Act. And from what you've read, Mark, we've kind of read different things on this, not conflicting information, but we've been reading from different angles. From what you've read, Mark, it's actually a good thing for the EPA. I agree. Congress is going to have to go back and act if they want to. People who actually represent people and not just bureaucrats are going to have to go back and act to clarify if the EPA can regulate certain things. But I read the Associated Press. The Associated Press is supposed to be right in the middle. The first line of their article on this was some snarky crap about how in the middle of the fight for climate change awareness, the Supreme Court has just dealt the death blow to the EPA. First of all, no, they didn't. Second of all, how has the EPA gotten so big? How has Metro Transportainment Services gotten so big? How has the FDA gotten so big? How have these agencies gotten so big that the Supreme Court literally has to tell them to chill out?
Yeah.
What is going
And it's
on?
an interesting topic because I've seen a lot of misinformation, mostly from my friends on the left about it. This basically is not even a big deal. It only said that the EPA can't do cap and trade, essentially, because it has such a huge impact on the economy. It's an oversized impact that, an unelected bunch of bureaucrats can't make those rules. And it was actually similar to kind of from what I understand, it's kind of similar to what we had with like the mask mandates in airports, where it's like, well, yeah, I don't know if like this is too much for an unelected board to do. So basically, the Supreme Court said, you know what, you can still do the Clean Air Act, you can still regulate to some extent. Which actually is better than from what I understand, that the environmentalists were expecting. They said you still have some broad powers to do, environmental things, but the cap and trade, it has too big of an impact on the economy, and that's not something that an unelected board can do.
And appointed board,
6-3. I mean, John Roberts was on board with the conservative people there, so it wasn't really that close.
Which I feel like he's just a really good litmus test. Like John Roberts, I feel like a lot of times is straight up the middle. And if he's siding, whichever side he sides on, I'm usually like, all right.
Well, people on the right will not agree with you. I think the Obamacare really took it. Obviously, some of even the. So I mean, I think it's right to say that if John Roberts is in the majority, it's probably not an extreme view. I think that's a good way to say it.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah. If he's, I'm usually like, all right. If he's there, then all right. He's in the middle. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. But I think
but it's again, don't listen to the talking heads. Don't listen to the media. This was actually not even a loss to the EPA. I wish they had less power, if I'm being honest. But it basically said, they at least have to stop at some point, and cap and trade would have such a huge impact on the economy that an unelected board should not be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the theme of this episode seems to really be trashing unelected governance boards and regulatory boards, but I think that it's time that we start calling these people out, and we do it a lot. We do call out unelected representatives, regulatory. You can't even call them representatives; they don't represent anybody. They just go to work and make up laws based on what they like and don't like. But this has been a big week for that, a loss in some view to one of them, and a gain in some view to another. I don't want to go back to the transportainment vehicles, which also, by the way, they call them transpotainment, but it's transportainment. I don't really want to go back to it, but I will just for one more thing. I don't know what gives the people in Metro government the authority to do this, but I'm almost at the point where I'm like, if you can't beat them, join them. And I want to go, like, you've heard the stories about how people will run for HOA boards, and then their first act as the HOA president will be to abolish the HOA. Like, I'm almost like,
but we're not running for office, and we are not talking about that.
No, I just mean, I'm not running for office. It's just a funny story that you see on Twitter a lot, but I almost want to be like, hey, someone hire me, and then I just want to go in there and start losing papers and like forgetting what laws that we want, forgetting what regulations we want to put in place. It's just very, very silly and very hurtful for Nashville employees, and I hope that they go back and reconsider. Now, let's talk about something actually happy and joyful. Bucky's. A new Bucky's opened up in Crossville the day that we went to our staff retreat. And let me tell you, I have been at University of Alabama playoff games in football. Mark has been to many a Jazz game. I've never in my life seen a crowd like that. That was one of the more insane experiences in my life. I told Stephanie I wish that she had like a child leash for me, and she could just put me on a leash and keep track of me through the store, because I was just really worried about getting lost. But it was fun, Mark.
It was opening day though, and it was packed. I mean, there were so many people that I was really overwhelmed in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it was. And then they yell. What do they yell about the meat? When the meat comes out and the Bucky's people behind the sandwich counter, they ring a bell and they start yelling something. I don't know what they were yelling, but it made me want to work at Bucky's because it looked like
fun. I mean, and honestly, we saw good for them. They get paid pretty well. We saw it starts, I think, like $17 or $18 an hour. It's a big boost for Crossville, and it was a cool place. I told you this, and I mean, you told me that hopefully this is not how it usually is, but I had a brisket sandwich, which I've heard so much about. I've been wanting to go here forever, a brisket sandwich. It was just okay. The brisket was good, but I didn't like that it had barbecue sauce on it. Now, you told me, and it was so busy, I just took the pre-made stuff, but you said that you can get it without barbecue sauce.
Buchanan. Yes. Yeah. I've been to the one at the beach, like near Orange Beach Gulf Shores a few times, and you can go up and get it without sauce. It's like the perfect hangover food. It's just a brisket sandwich without sauce on it. It's so
one thing I
flawless.
was happy with, which Taylor told me about, are these beaver nuggets, and they're fantastic. It's like the waffle crisp cereal, but in a popcorn form. They are very good. So I am excited to go back to Buc-ee's when there's not 4,000 people there. But it was cool, and I would love to try some of the other food.
I know their bathrooms are so nice. I usually get the cinnamon sugar cashews and a barbecue sandwich and a little Dr. Pepper situation. And I didn't get the barbecue sandwich this time because we had just been to Chick-fil-A. But better believe I got those cinnamon sugar cashews. And they were so good. I got a new scrunchie. I don't have my scrunchie in my hair right now, but I got a tie-dye Buc-ee's scrunchie. We're just big fans.
Everything too. It's like, oh, you want to go fishing? Here's some fishing poles. Like, you want to eat a meal? Here's something great. You want to go on Jeopardy? Here's a book on how. Like, it's insane all the stuff they have. It is the most wide-ranging, gigantic gas station. And now, you know what? It's going to be cool. Like, imagine in 10 years when we have Buc-ee's in Nashville, we have all the Wawas. Like, we're going to have some real options for great, gas station food.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. There's so many gas pumps. They had flags up everywhere. They were selling grills. They were selling cast iron pans. I'm like, I'm going to do my Christmas shop at Buc-ee's this year, Mom.
Insane. What a gigantic, wonderful place.
We should have tailgated that. I would have loved to have a few beers in the parking lot of Buc-ee's for the grand opening.
It would be pretty cool.
That would be a huge vibe. All right. So speaking of tailgating, remember back in our days of tailgating when we were younger, and we would sit out at the tent. Everybody remembers. Everybody go on this journey with me for a second. You set up the tent, you get your cooler, and you turn on music on your Bluetooth speaker or through your car speakers. At that time in your life, what were you listening to, Mark? What was the music that you were listening to at that time? I'll get to the main question later, but what kind of music were you listening to?
Here's the thing, is we didn't really tailgate much until college, and we didn't have a football team, so we only had a basketball team we tailgate for. So I actually think the tailgating at that younger age is a Southern thing. That's not really something we do. It's also, it's freezing in the winter, so we don't want to do it then. But it's like in college is when I kind of started. So, I mean, I feel like at that point, that was kind of when I just got into my tailgating days were kind of, freshman through senior year, and I just got into country music. So I was a really big, I don't like him as much anymore, but I used to love listening to Luke Bryan, and back before, I don't love him now, but and Jason Aldean, and that was kind of it was just a fun time listening to this country music. It was catchy, and Chris Cagle, and I liked it. I do the brats, and that was the thing in Wisconsin. We did tailgating with brats pretty much always, because that's just a Wisconsin thing. So you might have burgers and hot dogs, but brats were always the main deal. So yeah, I think kind of that early, that mid 2000s country music.
Okay, yeah, I think mine were probably it was probably about the same kind of thing. And everyone knows, if you haven't been listening for long, you don't know how much I despise country music. I hate country music. But in high school, that was most popular, so I listened to it. So now, on to part B of the question. Looking back on the music that you listened to in your youth, and back on songs that you used to really enjoy and artists you used to really enjoy, what are some of your biggest regrets? What do you look back on and you're like, what was he hearing? What was she hearing? She meaning me, myself. What did she hear in this that made her want to keep listening to this? What are some of your biggest, if people went through your iPod from those days, what would you be most embarrassed for them to see?
So I think embarrassed is different from what's actually not as good as I remember. Because the reason that we brought up this topic is because me, Taylor, and Suzanne were driving back from the car yesterday, and when we were talking about Elvis and all these things, we listened to some Elvis songs because the new movie came out. And I made the point that, I used to love this song. I wasn't not a huge Elvis guy. I just didn't really know many of the songs, and neither was Suzanne, but I love the song by his daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, called Lights Out. And it was on my watching, 99, watching the VH1 Top 20 Countdown. It was a song that I really liked. And I hadn't heard this for 15 years, so we forced Taylor to play it in the front. And it was bad. I don't know how I liked, and I at first, and I recognized, wow, I can't believe I like this song. And I listened, I honestly listened 10 times last night. I love this song for a reason. It's just not good. I don't know what, and that was the one song. Gosh, I can't believe I used to think it was so good. It's amazing.
Yeah. My song, I mean, it is bad, and I criticize Mark's taste in music all the time, but I will take Fastball and whoever else, Phil Vassar, compared to what he put me through in the car yesterday.
Yeah,
I think for me, it's funny.
And also realized she didn't like the song anymore. So it wasn't just me. That was like a kind of a hit in like that. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I love that song." I'm like, "Wait, we do not. Never mind."
We do not love that song. I think for me, the other day I was on Instagram and I scrolled to like a reel on Instagram and it started playing Big Green Tractor by Jason Aldean. So it's funny that you bring up Jason Aldean now. And I heard that song and in my head, I was like curling my hair and I wasn't really paying attention. And in my head, I was singing the lyrics and I was like, hey girl, hey past Taylor, hey Taylor at age 16, hey girl, somebody out there is going to make some better music for you to listen to. Just turn this off. Like, I felt bad for her, the little girl that was driving around in her Honda Civic listening to that music, because I felt bad for her.
The worst thing is about this is I actually kind of agree with that. I like Jason Aldean, but that song is not good. And I also like that song. I'm like, outside of the bad lyrics and stuff, like, it just wasn't that catchy. I don't know why I liked it. I think you always have this thing where it's like the people in the South are like, "Oh man, a Big Green Tractor." Like, "Oh, I was, that reminds me of my neighborhood where I was at." But then you have the people in the North being like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. That's how they all live down there." And it's like it's just this weird thing. But I actually agree with that. Now the other problem is that there's so many songs that you liked that you still like that you shouldn't. Most of the music you like from that era is bad. Not all, some it's okay, but just the obsession with, and we talked, Dashboard Confessional is the absolute worst band that's ever existed, and you still like them. And Vindicated was a song that when I was 12 or 13, I'm like, man, this song is so deep and good. It is trash. They say nothing. None of the lyrics mean anything. It's just a bunch of morons just whining about life without, they're like, oh man, and they use all these like analogies that don't even make sense. You feel like they're deep at that time, but really they're just dumb, and they're just using words. It's like a word game.
I think you're just trying to hurt me.
They're bad.
Because I love Dashboard. I had a photo of Chris Carrabba on my wall in high school. I had a photo of Travis Barker, a photo of Mark Hoppus. I had all the photos of all my little punk rock kings on my wall in high school. And I saw Dashboard Confessional recently. I'm wearing the t-shirt right now. I still love them, and I will die on this hill that Blink-182 and the spinoff bands, Plus 44, Angels and Airways, Boxcar Racer, like all incredible bands, and Mark will never agree with me on this. We were listening to Yellow Card in the car yesterday, and I literally got in 8 songs before Mark was like, you have to join this.
At least I don't even mind that genre. I don't like Blink-182, but they're not bad. Like, they have catchy songs. Thing is, Dashboard Confessional and Yellow Card don't have as catchy songs, and they're so much more whiny. They're not funny. Their voices are terrible. Their instruments are bad. Like, they're just not good at anything. And I understand why you liked it then. I get it. It was fun. Like, I think Vindicated was a catchy song. I thought that was cool. It felt important. The fact that you still like it today is really my issue with you. Not that you liked it back then. And these are bad. Blink-182 I'll give you. I will not give you Yellow Card. They are awful. Ocean Avenue is their only good song, and that's it.
But here's the thing. I had so much angst as a teenager. And I say had as a teenager as if I've grown out of it. I still have so much angst. And so I really feel seen and known by these emo bands that really magnify and accept me and my angst. And so I don't apologize. I love what I love, and I will love them for the rest of my life.
When you want to go cry at the skate park, you can listen to those songs. It's just they're not great, but I'm glad that
my skateboard is in my car. My noise-canceling headphones are by the door.
That's why we believe in subjective value. There is no value there to me, but at least she can do whatever she wants. And because, guess what? I hate those bands, but I'm not trying to ban them. I'm not like Nashville. You can do whatever you want. Listen to them.
Yes, no justice for Blink-182. We will not ban them at all. Okay, well, Mark, I feel like we really came full circle on that. You got any final thoughts before I sign us off?
Nope, I'm good. We'll see you next week.
All right, you've been listening to Decaf with the Beacon Center of Tennessee. We will see you next week.